Brandon Hanson, CEO, Goodmellow, and Hanson Distillery.
Dylan Rinaldi, COO of Goodmellow.
Perfect, guys. Well, hey, we'll kick it off and just give a little. One of you guys just give a kind of a cloud level overview as far as Goodmellow and how it ties into the distillery if they're interdependent entities and stuff.
Yeah, so Goodmellow is a functional THC drink, and we also have just some functional drinks as well. And it came out of my experience with Hanson Distillery, which we started in 2012, and just interest in non-alcoholic options and kind of not being that satisfied with what we were seeing and just alcohol removed spirits. So that's the tie in there. And then Dylan and I met. We've known each other since I think first grade and trying to start a business together. So we tried out of high school. It didn't work out, and then 20 years later we got together.
That's amazing. I love that. So what
Yeah.
did you guys? I got to go back because I was a middle school candy guy selling candy out of my locker. What were you guys doing back in the day when you tried out?
Yeah, it's not that it didn't work out. We just never followed through with it. But it was a bike rental business. So we're both in Marin. A lot of tourists come into San Francisco and ride across the Golden Gate Bridge and take the ferry back. And I think we tried it a couple times ourselves, being the tourist riding across the bridge, and enjoyed it and felt like there was a big opportunity to take that and also expand into Marin and into Hebron and whatnot. And we found a location, we had contacts within the industry, and then I think just put it on pause because it was too big of a responsibility. And I think it's haunted us ever since we started Goodmellow.
You guys were in
Yeah.
high school at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's interesting is my dad was helping us. He was kind of like urging us to do it. And I think, to be honest, we were just too scared. We're like, well, what if, why would it work? And in retrospect, we would have crushed it. I mean, it would have been a slam dunk at the time. Like everything about it is the right time, the right place, the right idea. I think it was a good lesson for both of us that, sometimes you just have to go for it. And you may not know all the answers, but we would have absolutely figured it out. And yeah, I mean, I think we both look back at that and think that was probably a mistake. But after that, we went our separate ways. Dylan can talk to you a little bit about his history, but I went down to LA and I was in the film business for 10 plus years, and really enjoyed it. And then at a certain point, I was tired of like constantly trying to get a job. You're always looking for the next job. And I had pitched my dad, both me and my brother had pitched my dad, many, many different businesses, cannabis businesses. I think my brother pitched him an online casino at one point, or, gambling, something or another. But like, there's a restaurant concept, just all these different things. My dad's been a serial entrepreneur, and we eventually stumbled upon this craft distilling thing, and it was really at like the birth of this craft spirits boom, when before that there just wasn't a lot of information about spirits, and spirits started to explode. So we took this idea of doing a craft, and I was bartending a little bit down there while I was in the film business, and yeah, we took this idea of doing a craft distillery and pitched him this. And early on, he was not very interested. I mean, it's not, when you look at the alcohol industry, most people assume like, how do you break into this, right? You're either like know someone, or it just seems really daunting. And so what we did is we showed him all of these different bars in San Francisco and New York and LA and wherever we traveled. And we're like, look look at these bars. Look, you see, it used to be everyone's drinking wine or beer, and now you go in and like 80% of the people have a cocktail. And now you can take a spirit and you can do anything you want with it. You can take tequila, vodka, etc., and make thousands of combinations of drinks, whereas with beer and wine, like, this is what it is. So yeah, long story short, we kind of like pulled his arm, and eventually he supported us, and we built Hanson Distillery in Sonoma.
When you guys were started, what year did you start Goodmellow?
So we started Goodmellow last year. I think,
Very
well, we
nice.
incorporated in 24, but we were like in business and kind of the second part of 2025.
What do you think? What do you think so far has been the biggest kind of learning curve from transitioning from distillery to looks like kind of were you guys in wholesale with the distillery, or is the also
Yeah.
the THC side your new foray and functional into wholesale?
Yeah, so like for some backstory in Hanson, we've been doing that now since 2012. And Hanson has grown to, one time it was the largest ultra premium organic vodka in the country. And now Belvedere became organic. Now it's number two behind Belvedere. So it's, become a really big brand, or, you can always grow, but
Hmm.
it's done pretty well. And the biggest difference, I mean, there's a lot of differences we've found between alcohol and non-alcoholic products. So, like, one, with the distillery, we've always controlled production. So we can, bring all the ingredients in our case, it's grapes, and ferment all the wine and do all the production on site. So you can scale things up and slow them down. And there's just it's just a different kind of experience to making products. With these canned drinks, because we decided to make THC, we can't make them in California. So originally we were going to build our own line and, try and make everything in house, but it just isn't in the cards for us right now. Eventually we hope to do that. And so it's not the greatest experience working with co-packers, and some of them are better than others, but I would say not being able to control the production and like be able to tweak things on the fly and evolve things over time, like that has been one of our biggest struggles in production. Um, because like, I don't care who it is, they're not going to give something as much time, energy, and attention as we would if we were making it ourselves. So I think as this landscape evolves, that's something that is paramount to continuing this brand, is bringing production in house and being able to really fine tune and tweak everything. Because the worst thing in the world is if we get a batch that, to Dylan and I might be like 5% different, right? And to us, it's a big deal. And a lot of people don't notice, but we notice. And so, if we can fix that and evolve that, I think that'll be really important. But there's a many differences, between spirits and and THC, or just functional beverages, right? Like free goods and sampling and where these things can be sold and what kind of distributors they're sold with and the margins they take. And so it's really, while it's still beverage, it's a very different business. It's set up differently. And in a lot of ways, I think there are a lot less challenges with things without alcohol in terms of selling to accounts and, how you can sample them and all of those types of things, which can be very challenging with alcohol.
Yeah, it's fascinating for you talking to you guys because you have the hemp infused beverages, then you also have the functional wellness one with the adaptogens and everything like that in the one product there, and then you also have the spirit side. So for me, I like this conversation because that's the world I'm in. I'm in all the categories, and it's constantly to look at it, to not be so much in the weeds on one of them that you can look at the entire forest from the trees. It's a whole different perspective than I find when I talk to people that are in one singular subcategory of adult beverages right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good way of looking at it. But yeah, I think, my personal interest is in a number of different categories, and is also like seeing where I'm personally interested, or, my wife or Dylan or his wife, like what we currently drink and what I think drinking trends, they're constantly changing. But, what are we interested in? Where's the market moving, and how can we, be in a bigger segment of that? Like we're looking at food distributors, right? And different states to sell our functional drinks, which, all my expertise and experiences with liquor distributors, right? But I think we're very interested in kind of learning all the facets of how these drinks are sold and what's the best route to market. And, in some cases it'll be spirits distributors, in other cases it'll be food distributors. And Yeah, so it's really interesting. And I think, in my opinion, I look at these functional drinks like alcohol alternatives, whether they're sold as them or not. Like that's how I perceive these drinks. Like I don't put them in the same category as poppy or, these other like flavored sparkling or sodas, I guess. They're really something different than that. And I think that it's the feeling that gives you that differentiation. And that to me is what is really interesting.
Is that why like your heat map is mostly eastbound? Your co-packer, I'm assuming, is on the eastern side of this country.
So that is mostly due to THC regulation. So
Yep,
because
that
we're
makes sense.
yeah, because we're hemp derived, we're selling mostly in the southeast. We're speaking to distributors now in Florida and Texas and Wisconsin and a number of other states, but there's not. I mean, you can't sell these in California. You can't sell them in Nevada. I mean, there's a lot of these states that you think you could sell them in, you can't. And so right now we're launching, actually last week we started launching our just our functional drinks in California, and we were seeing an incredible interest in both on and off premise. And I'm a big proponent of on premise for trial and get as many people to try your drinks as possible. If you have something that's really good that's worth sharing, like that's where you're going to get that repeat buyer, who shares it with their friends, who talks about it. It's so much harder to get that trial if you're at, Target or whatever on the shelf and you're competing, for the lowest price. So that's our goal in California. So we are now sold in California, our functional drinks and we'll probably start selling those in a number of other states, mostly on the West Coast, and then we'll branch out.
So, Dylan, so tell me a little bit about each of your roles and kind of how you guys balance out your partnership between the entities and between each other's roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, so I think my previous career was operations, so and that came from retail, bicycle retail. So I really, that's the backbone of my skill set. But to kind of pull it back to where, Brandon and I have known each other for a long time, we were kind of two people that love to cook, love farm to table aspect, and kind of push the envelope at a young age of how to take raw ingredients from the store and turn them into amazing meals. And I think that kind of transitioned over to the relationship we built off this brand, where it's flavor first, ingredients first. So he has a tremendous amount of skill sets already associated in the space, but working together, building the formula, building the flavor was the fun creative part that we almost could apply to what we did together at a younger age. And my duties fall more on the back end, just the way we're integrating with our tech stack. But from a small business, we cover a lot of responsibilities and share responsibilities, whether it's from dealing with administrative functions, whether it's about being in the field, knocking on doors. We kind of do it all together, and it varies day to day. That's the fun of it.
Nice. Who's the packaging approval? Who does the approvals on packaging design?
We both do.
Yeah.
I'm giving you a compliment, so feel free to fight over the compliment.
Nice. I think it's important. Like at Hanson, we always did things as a team.
The Hanson bottle, when I pulled up your website, the Hanson bottle, I immediately remembered it. So I want to give you that compliment as like
Thank you.
a design standpoint. I didn't know your brand, your names, but I pulled that bottle up and I remembered it. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I think when we designed that, it was we did it as kind of a team, right? Everyone has their input and their thoughts and their ideas, and sometimes you fight over these things, and people are really passionate. But that's how Dylan and I look at these. Like, sometimes I'm going to have better ideas, sometimes he is, and I think it's important to know that it's always worth looking at both sides. And like, I think Dylan not having experience in this industry is really important, because he doesn't know all the things that you're not supposed to do, or he looks at things differently. And so it's great to have those two perspectives. And yeah, thank you for saying that about the packaging. We We worked with a friend of mine who is based in Oregon, and he does a number of things, like a lot of different. He doesn't do a lot of beverage per se, but he does like a lot of cool redesigns of hotels and restaurants, and
You can tell I
just
wasn't a beverage guy, which is where the compliment also comes. And
yeah, I
but
think
it's always exciting to see when outsiders come in and do designing, because it just takes things to the next level every time.
yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. And it's a little busy, but I mean, if you look at the Hanson bottle, like it's probably the busiest vodka bottle on the market, but it really sort of stands out and is different. So um, I think that's where we keep refining and changing things, and tweaking formulas here and there, and tweaking design elements, and just trying to really stand out on our own. And I think really where when we started this, there were a number of THC brands, THC seltzers, right? Like just more or less like THC delivery system. And that's not really what we were trying to create. What we were trying to create is more of an interesting functional beverage, and THC is just one of the ingredients. So early on, we started and tried to like encapsulate this feeling of this more like social. I don't know if energetic's the right word, but this just sort of like positive euphoria that was more like you didn't want to drink this and go to sleep or watch a movie. Like you wanted to go interact with people. And so it's more similar to alcohol than maybe what a lot of like the heavier just THC seltzers were doing. So that's kind of always been our northern light or our guiding stars. Like how do we introduce these functional ingredients to create a feeling that's different than the other products on the market. And so I think we'll always look at this as THC is an amazing ingredient. And there's other cannabinoids that are really interesting too. CBG, CBN, THCV. I mean, early on, we put THCV in our formulas, which I personally think is an incredible cannabinoid. I think it gets a bad rap, and people think of it as a synthetic when it's not. And so we decided to take it out because Total Wine and some of these other bigger chains weren't allowing those products into their stores. But it's really a great product to use, and I would say you will probably eventually come out with other things that are more limited and use that again. Um, yeah, I mean that's really I think what we're about is like finding the most unique, interesting feeling with the ingredients, and then sourcing real fruit and having something taste very authentic.
Have you guys? I see. I'm looking at the heat map here, the different states and stuff like that. What channels so far seem to giving you guys like the best impact and rate of sale and stuff like that so far? I guess let's
Uh,
let me broad strip for like specifically THC and then the glow functional.
so right now, what we did is we leveraged a lot of the Hanson vodka
Mhm.
distribution network. So for instance, Hanson is sold through Allied in New Jersey. So we went and met with Allied, pretty early on when they were starting their THC division, and same with Georgia. We signed, Hanson is one of our best markets with United, and so we decided to sign with United. And then, some markets we've gone with smaller distributors, like beer distributors. We're in Ohio with Six City. Um, and then we've tested out some wine distributors in Delaware, Pennsylvania. And I think, it's my feeling, and in all these markets right now, we're just selling the THC. So we're not also selling the functional beverages. And I think we're looking at, as we expand the functional drinks, are we going to sell them through liquor distributors, or are we going to try and sell them through food distributors? And I think we're leaning towards we're going to try both, right? Some markets we're going to have a beer distributor selling the functional drinks, and some markets we're going to have a spirits guy, and the other markets we're going to have the Cahys and the Unifies of the world. So I don't know that we've perfected that yet, and I think this year we're definitely going to grow our THC business significantly, but I would say what there's a lot of room for is growing our functional business and really trying to leverage that in a number of these states where most of our focus up until this point has been THC. And yeah, I mean, last week, Dylan and I went out and just saw so much positive reception for the functional drinks. Like almost shocking. I mean, people were excited about the category. There was like some information about it. Not everyone knows what a functional drink is, but they're like seeing customers ask for things with mushrooms or things with adaptogens or nootropics or whatever it happens to be. So that's, I think, our goal this year is to really build that. And so I don't know that I have the perfect answer for that yet. I think, in a year we should get back on here and we'll tell you what worked and what didn't work.
No, absolutely, and that's my wheelhouse. So that's what I do during the day when I'm not hopping on here and doing the podcast episodes. I do strategic advisory and venture development. So we go and
Okay.
test the new markets, set up distribution, everything like that. So your answer was perfect because it's a lot different than a lot of other people's, where it's when things aren't going well or things aren't going as fast as they wanted, they tend to blame distributors, blame the market, blame blah blah. But I like your response because you're open to everything and you understand the fluidity and the volatility that exists in this market, both with the THC hemp infusions, but also with the functional beverage being a new category. And there's no real way to predict those things. So a constant analysis on a monthly and weekly basis is inevitably the only way for success. So like
Yeah.
nobody has the answer right now, but that's the fun part. The fun part is the analysis and being able to see where the delta is and hitting that delta at the right time. Because that's all this is right now, is having quality product at a quality price. But 100% of the success right now is the timing and positioning on the shelf.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, yeah, and, I've never been in the habit of blaming distributors. They have a lot of stuff going on, right? And I've been with distributors where when we started Hanson, it was me, my brother, my dad, my sister, and like there's three brothers and a sister, my dad, with a couple salespeople here and there, but we were banging on doors all across the country to kind of to get the product out there. And then we signed with a huge wine and spirits company, Trinchero, and then we had like the muscle of them behind these distributors, and it really changed the way we interacted out there. So I get being the small guy trying to get attention, and I've seen how it works when you have a lot more leverage and they have many more brands, and they're with that distributor in 15 states and there's kind of a bigger thing at play. So I get that. But I would say, yeah, with these brands, as long as we've done our job with the packaging looking different from what's on the market, the juice inside the can, so that if someone tries it, they love it and they're going to rebuy it. My issue with the distributor is like if people are out of stock and they're not fulfilling those orders, then we have
Yeah.
problems. But outside of that, like we get that, some distributors are going to be great brand building partners and others aren't. And it's just like it's market by market, and it's really about that relationship with the distributor. So yeah, we're excited to learn how that evolves throughout the country and what network that's going to be with.
It's very like reflective of the craft beer industry from like 2008 to 2016, 17. And I happened to be in an exclusive contract with a beer wholesaler in Pennsylvania at that time, and my job was to go around the country and meet with breweries and find which brands would be good for Pennsylvania, and then bring them into Pennsylvania and set up their distribution network for dozens of craft breweries during that 7-year period. And what I feel right now, being in the hemp infused space, doing the same thing, it's so similar. For me, like having a unique perspective of experiencing that before, we're able to see kind of it's everything is exactly the same. It's a flood of SKUs with a very unknown category that also at the same time needs big brands to come in to educate the consumers to expedite the rate of sale. Because that's the next thing is everybody's at a certain size, but nobody's at that like Miller Coors, Anheuser-Busch size that can spend that real dollars on educating the consumer, because we're all trying to do it piecemeal to tastings and things like that. So there's more. I think there's an opportunity right now to bring together some sort of collective cooperative education in the hemp infusion and the functional space to increase the rate of sale and get these consumers up to speed, and not take 7 to 10 years like craft beer did. And then during that time, how much it strained capital and how much it strained rate of sale, whereas more collective unity in the front end could expedite that.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think education is key here because it's this is so new for people. You have people like my mom and her friends who probably never tried cannabis in their life drinking these drinks because it's an approachable way to enjoy this. So, yeah, education is major, and I agree. I think as this grows and we have bigger players get in the space, which I think we'll see, depending on what happens here with this extension, but I think we'll still see some pretty good, big companies get in here this year. We're all for that education, and I think at the end of the day, whatever happens, we're going to be doing this for many, many years. Like, we're not here for some quick cash grab and get out of here quickly. Like, this is a long-term journey for us, and exploration, because even more so than THC, this whole like functional wellness revolution is incredibly interesting and fascinating. I think that Goodmellow can grow in many different ways. I look at our brand, I wouldn't say exactly like AG1, but I'm more interested in it going that way than just selling dosage in a can.
When you
So
go from functional or the hemp infusion to functional, then you're a daily part of somebody's life. Now you're intimately involved in the core memory and a core part of their daily ritual. And that is the real sticking point for a brand. Having both of those opportunities to have your brand go across it's more sustainability for stacking your brand for the long term. So two things I appreciate you saying is, number one, you didn't call it a ban, you called it an extension, because that's what it is. Calling it a ban is too much negative connotation to put onto it, because that's not what's going on. This is a market shift and a stabilization for regulation. That's what's going on. There's nothing going away. And I've
yeah,
sat with lawmakers in Pennsylvania, and then upcoming in DC as well, face to face, and they're even saying it. You know what I mean? They understand the revenue opportunity that's here, and they understand the consumer wants to go this way, and every elected official is not going to go against the consumer.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. I totally agree. It's If the consumer wasn't at this level, it would be really it would be easier to shut this down. But when you have this mass explosion of consumer interest and it's not stopping, I mean, I see so many wine companies and beer companies, really struggling and hurting that once we're very much in the opposite situation, all looking at this as a savior. So, who knows? We'll see what happens, but I agree with you. I think there's a lot that this is going to help benefit in a major category that has not been in decline like this, really ever. I mean, sure, there's been blips on the radar here, but it's not looking good long term. So
it's also the fun part about it too is it's also in that period of probably 2014 to 2018 when craft beer was still exploding, and then the seltzers came into the mix. Like that's
yeah,
where that consumer has two massive categories that are in their early adoption phases and development, and it's just really fun to see people like yourselves that are in both of them, because like I said, I don't get to meet people often that are toggling in between all the categories.
yeah, yeah. I
Talking
think
about so good.
no, no. The last thing I'll say about that is uh, I when I meet people out there, I try and um, I just try and talk about having like beverage expertise and have done this a little bit and obviously can always learn more, but having that and being passionate about that and kind of evolving this is really important. I think we need more people like yourself and like us where we have experience, we have interest, and it's not, we're not investment bankers just trying to like throw something out there to see if it sticks. And no disrespect to the cannabis guys who haven't done beverage, because a lot of them are doing a great job, but having those kind of insight and understanding of beverage, I think, is really important to having success long term here.
Well, it's also for the bigger picture of the economy and the consumer choice. When you put hemp infused beverages into the dispensary channel, it doesn't work. You can look at the data. The data shows it time and time again. It does its best when it's in the liquor channel, sitting in a liquor store, because it's that alternative. It's not a separate
Yeah,
trip to the store. It's the same consumer for the same trip. And we talk about this a lot with the elected officials in Pennsylvania. I'll say it again. So for anybody that doesn't, know these types of things, like a 5 milligram can of Goodmellow is the equivalent of one joint, which is like 150 milligrams. So where people are scared to like grab a 5 milligram because they're going to be zonked out on their couch, they need to realize it's a different experience and it's a way different dosage. And a lot of times we look at a vessel like a 12-ounce can versus a joint in our hand, and we're like, well, there's no way these have to be, the can's got to be more potent than the piece of paper in my hand. But it's making people realize those distinctions, and that all comes on the front end of education. I'm really at a place where it is honestly frustrating to not see national campaigns by these associations in the industry that are getting out of the political fighting between the alcohol and the cannabis and the hemp infusion, and just really start teaching the consumer it's the same thing. 5 milligram Pilsner, 10 milligram IPA, 20 milligram, you get no glass of wine, maybe a shot, stuff like that. That's where this whole divisiveness is going to do nothing but stunt the growth of the industry. Whereas everybody needs to realize, accept the fact that you're all chasing the same consumer and figure out how to present yourself just like you did before. Because we forget, like we're saying, all big alcohol. It's like the alcohol consumer is the same too. There was a time where they went from craft beer to Merlots and then to whiskey. And we remember those years where we couldn't predict sales and we couldn't predict how much to stock in the warehouses because the consumer was just moving all over the place. And I think we need to find a way to be comfortable with that and realize, like, getting together and just realizing we can't control the consumer anymore, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and just putting as much information out there in education to just be like, here's who we are, and showing, not selling, and being like, your choice is your choice, and this is all the education about us, and you're just educating the consumer via selling, without the selling part anymore. And that's the only way I see this all going, to be honest with you, because it's another hurdle is from the hemp infusion part is, and you just touched on it from the bank part. It is something people need to realize is this isn't an industry where you can go in and get bank loans from your community bank or credit union and stuff like that to build a local business. It's not an opportunity for a lot of people. It might be for some based on their community and their bank, but that's a case by case niche type opportunity. And to scale these types of things at the level of education they need, that's bank type funding. And that's something that is not even accessible to most brands because of the stigmatization and the classification federally.
Yeah. Yeah. Good points.
It's why I said it a couple of weeks ago, and I mean it. That's the difference in craft beer and this is craft breweries could go to a bank and get $500,000 $1 million loan, and you guys really can't that easily. And that's why that business got so much bigger. And I keep saying it is as soon as it gets declassified or descheduled, and these banks are actually able to begin to invest in this community, everybody needs to look out for hemp infused beverages. Like, you guys are building an industry on private funding. You know what I mean? Like, and that's something that people don't realize. And private funding and the risk every morning that, you might get your bank account frozen until they figure out what's going on or whatever, depending on what state you're in. And, that type of mental stress is something that inhibits growth and expansion of creativity for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, it's interesting. That's for sure.
It's frustrating on this end, man, to see like what's going on and how people just want to be okay with stifling like true growth and true free enterprise, and like the regulations that you guys have all put in and self-regulations that you put in, those that are honoring those regulations and adhering to those self-regulations, they need to be commended and platformed and not stifled and threatened with a ban. I've dealt with plenty of things in the alcohol industry that skip by with a lot less regulation.
Yeah.
But anyway, all for that stuff. So talk a little bit about, for you guys, the business structure as it is right now, like scale wise, like how many do you guys have employees? Is it 1099s, and kind of is everybody spread out across the country in certain areas and stuff? How do you guys operate day to day?
So we have, we have like a central team, and then we have some salespeople that are spread out. So we have, I think, I don't know, 12 or 14 people right now that help out. And, I think as we grow, the two areas that we need to grow in are always going to be salespeople out in the market, whether it's part-time people or, some cases we're talking to brokers or sharing people with other THC brands. And then also in marketing, and really just, when we started Hanson Distillery, you didn't really need to do that much like founder facing stuff. You kind of could just, make some videos, do some cocktail videos. I feel like nowadays with your brand, it's pretty important that you have to do that. You really have to like talk to your consumers, let them know that you're real. There's just this movement away from these big corporate businesses. Not always, right? There's a lot of them that are really successful, but I see so many brands where the founders or some high level person in that business is like constantly talking to their audience and saying, this is why we're doing it. This is, we're real people just like you, and this is what we're trying to offer you guys. So I think those are the two areas we'll continue to add people. And it's really, this year for us is going to be figuring out where we're putting more of our eggs, right? We right now it's in that THC basket, and we'll see sort of what happens here later in the year. But I'm equally as excited about this functional space as well, because I just think we're just seeing a lot of interest in that, and it's like really creative. You can continue to add new ingredients and try things and add different products to make your drink feel different for different people. So yeah, that's what it looks like now.
Couple weeks ago, we have a standing tailgate at the Philadelphia Eagles, the stadium there in Philadelphia,
Oh, nice.
and it's like a sanctioned tailgate. There's a DJ, live band. It's like a big party type thing that we do, and then we have different brands we feature at different times. And we did a client of ours, Happy Beverages, based out of Chicago. They're similar to you guys in the sense they have a THC line and then they have Fungi Fusion, which is their functional beverage line. And we sampled out hundreds of people that day, and it was a real excitement for where that category is going, to see everybody's response to it, all the product and trying it, and like just being like every single person come up, we just gave them a can. They came into the DJ booth, and it was just watching the energy and the video footage we were capturing and the photos and stuff like that. You could just see the energy elevate as the evening went on. And it was like, from my being 20 years in the alcohol, by the time the energy begins to get to a certain point, you guys as well having the distillery, when you're in the alcohol industry and the energy gets to a certain, you're like, fuck, I'm gonna have to throw somebody out. I'm gonna have to separate a fight. Like, you're just like, it's anxiety that's building every time everybody gets more excited. And this was the
Yeah.
exact opposite. Like, I have footage of people like walking and like strangers like just start dancing with each other after they had like one or two drinks, and it's like they're not even
That's
drunk.
great.
Like, there's no alcohol at all, and not even like it was just it's one of those things where I honestly sat back and I got a little woo woo hippy dippy in the moment, but I sat back and watching all these strangers interacting and then thinking about what all is the craziness of the world that we live in at this moment. And I really think that, personally for me, I'm 3 years sober from alcohol. I just finished out my 3 years in December. But I have no problem with the alcohol industry. I sell RTD canned cocktails all day long and beer, and I'm in breweries all day long and distilleries. It's not a problem. And I support the industry. I had a problem with it personally. And then, but what I got back was on the drive after that tasting, I got a real excitement to realize like there's now another feature and another category that can bring people back in together. And I always tell people like my dream in all this work that I put into this industry and bridging these gaps, my dream is to have experiences like I get to have in certain markets where I'm drinking my THC product or my functional mushroom product, and then my buddy next to me is drinking RTD can or craft beer. And now we're reemerging like sober people, for me and other people that might have been nervous to get back into it. We're building these bridges and we're actually increasing our foot traffic into our places. And like, it's a real personal drive for me as far as that goes, but that's what I believe is like one major key to what's happening socially in America and in our culture is people are not spending enough time with each other. They're not like spending enough time with their friends and checking crazy ideas that are in their heads, and just realizing that like we launched into social media many moons ago, and I was one of the original ones on there. But all we've done is actually over time just become less social when it comes to the important thing, which is being together in person as well.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on 3 years.
Thanks,
That's
man.
huge. And I been in this industry a long time. There's a lot of sober people in alcohol, and whether it's crossover or whatever it happens to be. And I think, yeah, the end of the day, right? It's a people are connecting, right? They're socializing, they're going out, and that's such an important thing. And when I started seeing alcohol decline, like that was one of the major things I was concerned about, right? If you're a 22 or 20-year-old man or woman, right, and you're like, oh, I don't drink anymore, I'm not going to go out, like that's that's going to create a worse life for you, not because you're not being intoxicated, but because you're not out there interacting with people and maybe making a couple bad decisions, but like doing things that are important to growing up. So yeah, whether it is you drink alcohol, you don't drink alcohol, like having options so you can still go out there and be comfortable and be sort of socially um willing to be social, I think is hugely important. And so this kind of middle step of functional drinks where you have, a feeling but you're not totally intoxicated, or THC, or we've looked at all kinds of different things, kava and kana, and like a ton of different ingredients that I think people are now really open to, and interested in as alternatives to really more or less the only legal option, alcohol, for forever, and then cannabis a little bit more recently, and now I think it's blossoming and there's a lot more options.
That was one of the exciting pieces for me when Brandon and I were out in different states, watching how hemp beverages have really developed its own culture, not just in on-prem, but like even in a cafe, in a coffee shop, and then coming back to California and seeing that we don't have that option. And as I get older, I'm more intentional with the time I want to spend out socializing, but also I'm thinking about what I have to do the next day. And that's one big advantage that I really love about this category, is that the ingredients that you're consuming and also the effect the next day play a big role into like how you decide to spend your time socializing. And back in college, alcohol probably was easier to consume at larger doses, but that's definitely not the case now. And so I love seeing where hemp beverages have really like embraced the culture where you can consume at any time, whether it's like in the late afternoon or evening. And that's something I wish every state can experience, because it's very polarizing. Some people don't even know what it is or how to interact with it, where other states are fully embraced in it.
We're we're launching a campaign hopefully by the end of this month called iwantmythc.com. And it's going to start out as for Pennsylvania, it's going to be a 100,000 signature campaign. We have a bill and a lobbyist with the campaign as well. So it's a hemp beverage bill for PA that'll put the product in the alcohol distribution network and allow alcohol manufacturers to buy a permit and produce hemp infused products, become a co-packer, whatever it is they want to do. And then bars, restaurants, coffee shops, and everything like that can purchase a hemp beverage permit. I'm excited because it looks like where we're going with this in Pennsylvania, the bill's been written and it's getting introduced into committee this month. It is it's something that I hope what we're building can be kind of a beacon of exactly what you're talking about, Dylan, is putting the product together, putting it in the proper channels, putting it in the proper retail, and having it in the age-gated regulatory aspect so everybody's safe, but also everybody has access wherever it is they want to get those products. And I believe firmly it'll bleed into medical marijuana dispensary traffic and things like that eventually when those people continue their journey through the products. But I think putting these products in the most accessible places is the way to begin their journey into checking out what the wellness and health aspects are of cannabis in general.
Yeah, that's awesome. We've learned that, and kind of falling into different interactions with some of our customers, whether it's damage shipping or whatever it might be, customer service oriented, but finding out some of these customers who are living fully embracing hemp because they have different ailments, or at their age they're taking different medication and they have to remove alcohol from their lives. Seeing how hemp beverages have benefited their lifestyle at kind of a later stage in life too, goes to show that they're using our website to buy essentially their medicine, their way of like getting through every single day, and turning down prescription medication and whatnot. So there's a whole other side of it too that is probably not in the focal point that makes a big difference to people's lives later in life.
Well, you want to tell that story, Dylan, that we experienced, or you experienced yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday we had I think it was because of just this cold spell going through, but we assume that some of our packages in transit got so cold that they exploded and froze. So we had a customer reach out, pretty upset, and we resolved it. And it actually resulted in a phone call. And in that phone call, she told me that she's has Alzheimer's, and this is her favorite product she uses on a daily basis. She's she referenced a lot of different studies happening in Israel right now with hemp and how beneficial it is to her. And, it was kind of like an aha moment where when we were building this product and thinking about our customer base, it was probably like kind of last on the list of where you think this would make the biggest impact. But, to hear her talk about it, how it's such a huge part of her lifestyle, was really impactful. And it's something that I hope that, we don't get in a position where we can restrict it or make it harder for her to get, because that's something she enjoys, and it's her routine every single day, and it works for her every single day.
I'll tell you, it's from my personal story. I try to tell everybody in this space is that these products are what helped me get sober. Having that tool in my hand when I'm in those social places, I brought this category in because I started seeing great quality products, and it benefited me personally. So it's one of those things that I commend all of you for what you're doing, because it's against the grain and it's against the big money that is out there, because they don't want people to get sober. They don't want people to change their drinking alcohol every day and every night. They want 5 p.m. to be part of our ritual and part of our habit. And we do want that for some people, but we have to be cognizant of the fact that not every consumer is the same. And having these other opportunities are really important, and it's crucial for certain people. Now, there are certain people in the sober place that can't have that. For me, that THC does not affect me the way that alcohol does. It's not a daily thing for me. It's not like I'll grab them every once in a while during the week if I'm in social settings, but that's about it. It's not part of a 5 p.m. ritual or anything like that for me. And that's just because of the way I chose my sober journey to be, because I felt like it would be part of too much of a habit. But there's other people that it will be, and it will be a great transitional tool. So I want to publicly also tell you guys, just like, there are a lot of people out there that probably aren't expressing because they're embarrassed of their sobriety and things like that, is that you really are changing people's lives very quietly. And that's something to really know, that it's more than just the money, and it's more than just the volume and opportunity you guys have. You're making very small impacts that will bleed out in generations to come. And that leads to generational breaking. That leads to breaking generational curses. And that is bigger than any money you guys can ever make doing this.
Yeah, I love, it's being intentional and empowered to make those decisions. We have information available to us at our fingertips on our phone. Like, you can really understand a lot just by doing some basic research. So when you're making those intentional decisions to benefit your life or the people around you, those are all really cool things to be able to do through a product like this.
As we kind of close out on this episode, and I'm definitely going to get you guys back in, we're going to do some roundtable stuff throughout the year on different topics and things like that with other founders and stuff. So we'll definitely invite you guys back for that. But is there anything else you guys want to touch through, if you want to run through the products and the website and things like that for everybody?
Yeah, I think so. We have a few things that we offer. So we have what we call Goodmellow Glow, which is our THC and CBD free options. We have 4 flavors: strawberry hibiscus, Meyer lemon elderflower, white peach tea, grapefruit habanero. And we use a blend of 3 different functional mushrooms: lion's mane, cordyceps reishi. We use KSM 66 ashwagandha, which I'm a huge fan of. We use L-theanine, we use GABA, and then we use THC, CBD, and CBG in our THC variants. So we have our THC free, and then in our THC variants, we have a 2, a 5, and a 10 milligram offering. So they all have, like I said, THC, CBD, and CBG. All the drinks we make, real fruit. We're using real fruit juices and purees. We're not using any sugar. We're using things like monk fruit for any, light sweetness. Low calorie. I think we're at like 28 calories a 12-ounce can, something like that, 26, 28. And yeah, we do have a couple other things. We have 2 750 bottles. We have our THC free bottle, our functional, same mushroom stack and ashwagandha and all those ingredients in there. And then we make a THC version of that, 5 milligrams per ounce and a half. The flavor of those is similar to like if you look at maybe an Aperol and a Saint Germain. If you mix those two together, it's like a citrus botanical blend. Absolutely delicious, not carbonated, in a 750 bottle. And yeah, that's those are the products we make right now. And I think we'd love to speak with you a little bit more on our functional side. It sounds like you have some some really good experience there. And as we, build that, our distribution on THC is pretty robust, but the functional stuff would be interesting to speak to you more about.
Yeah, I will send you guys an email later today with my calendar for those meetings, and then let's definitely talk about that and see what we can do to kind of help you guys out. I think it's a great idea, and I'm excited about. I think you guys, the samples are coming in here any day now, and then once I try those too, from a branding standpoint, this stuff is flawless. I mean, you guys, it's beautiful packaging, both on the distillery side and then also on what you guys are doing with Goodmellow. I really think I'm excited to try the liquid, and I also, aside from all of that stuff. I'll kind of close out with this: is you guys have a really good strategy, and you guys have a really good head on your shoulder, and you're looking at things the right way. There's no ego in you guys, and you're constantly in an analysis mode. I can tell even while we're sitting here talking, and it's just one of those things that don't get distracted by all the noise. Continue to do exactly what you guys are doing for sure, and I'm looking forward to talking to you guys further. So hey, I'll close out with this here. We do a little ending at the tail end here, and I want to remind everybody there's no script and there's no prep. It started out because I was lazy, but it turned out to be a really good filter for assholes, and these guys are not that. So what it is there's no script, there's no questions, which means we don't know each other. And so you just saw three strangers get to know each other in 60 minutes, and that's the way to do it. Get out there, look at people in the eye when you're walking in the street, hold a door for a stranger, ask somebody how they're doing, and actually pause and wait to see what they say, and actually care and give a shit about what they say. And don't be a piece of shit out there. And there's a really easy way to put some positive vibes out in the world, and that's just getting to know strangers, because there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of good things, and there's more in common than we think. And but we got to actually make the effort and try to get out there and get to know people. So Dylan and Brandon, I commend you guys for the courage of hopping on with no questions and no script and no prep. That's definitely something that is a place of courage, and I want to publicly always acknowledge that. And it is a good filter for assholes, because you don't get on a podcast and fake it and lie if you don't know what you're going to be asked. So that was the original intent, and that's the original format. It's very open now, and I joke around that this is the realest thing on the internet, and this is really true strangers connecting and telling stories. So it is a timeless tradition, and I'm happy to digitalize it and tell you guys a story. And I want to thank you for trusting me with your story, and be able to put this out here and getting the word out for what you guys are doing at Goodmellow and everything you guys are doing.
Well, thank you, Nate. We appreciate you having us. It's been a pleasure to get to know you, and it's nice to see other people in the industry that have been in alcohol, been in functional THC, really just understand all these beverage avenues. So we appreciate your time, and yeah, we look forward to speaking to you again.
Absolutely. I'll shoot you guys. Yeah, absolutely, Dylan. Hey, you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll shoot you that email out later today. I'm looking forward to having a follow-up conversation with you.
Thanks, Nate.
Sounds great. Thanks,
All right,
Nate.
take care, guys.
Bye.